call the meeting to order with a roll call vote. I guess we'll wait on that. All meetings are recorded by Westwood Media Center. If anyone else wishes to record the meeting, please identify yourself by raising your hand. This meeting is filmed live by Westwood Media Center on their YouTube channel, local government channels, Comcast Channel 12 and Verizon Channel 42. As a friendly reminder, please turn off your cell phone ringers and remain on mute while not speaking to assist with the clear audio. The meeting will be civil and all people will be treated respectfully. The format of the meeting will be the chair will announce the agenda item and the applicant will introduce themselves and team members. The applicant will present to the board. The board will proceed to staff comments and the board will discuss and may ask questions of the applicant. The chair will then seek public comments. For the public hearing items, the public will be given an opportunity to comment and ask questions by asking participants to raise a hand in the Zoom and waiting to be unmuted. In Zoom, you may use the raise hand feature or by pressing *9 if dialing in by phone. Or you may put a question in the Q&A that the chair will read. Items that are not a public hearing, the opportunity for public participation will be at the discretion of the board, and it is recommended to place your question in the Q&A for the chair to consider. When it's time for the public comment period, the chair will ask everyone to please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please direct all comments and questions through the chair. All votes will be taken by roll call vote. All people will be given the opportunity to speak or ask questions for public hearing items. But in the interest of time and fairness, personal, repetitive, or off-topic comments may be cut short. In the event of a disruption, the chair will mute the individual and a warning will be given. If disruption occurs again, the individual will be removed from the meeting. Let's do a roll call introduction. Ellen?
Here.
Kate?
Here.
Josh?
Here.
And I still don't see Phil, am I right? There?
Phil is not yet joined. He can join.
Okay.
I'll watch the attendees and bring him over when he gets here.
I was looking at this again. It just basically chair announces agenda item, invites applicant to present application. It's kind of what I just went over. So I'm not going to read this again. Okay. Nora, any changes or additions to our agenda?
No additions, but I would like to take one item out of order. And number 12 on your agenda list is general miscellaneous updates and administrative items. I'd like to take one update out of order to introduce our new town planner, Elijah Romulus. Elijah started as town planner on Monday, so this is his first planning board meeting and only his second day in our department, but he's doing a great job so far. Elijah comes to us most recently from the Old Colony Planning Council. And before that, he was with the town of West Bridgewater, and before that with the city of Chelsea. He has a degree in mechanical engineering from Rochester Institute of Technology, as well as a master's in urban environmental studies from Tufts University. So he's got a lot to share with us, and we can't wait to make the best use of his education and experience.
Thank you, Nora. I appreciate that. Hello, members of the planning board. I'm glad to meet you, and definitely glad to be part of the town of Westwood. And moving forward, I'll be of service. And yeah.
Welcome. Great to have you aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, so then going back to your first agenda item, the first item we have is consideration of a request for a 1-year extension of an EIDR approval for the mobile station on the run at 710, 722 High Street. This was an application from Global Montello Group. And if you recall, this came up at our last meeting on March 21st, but due to a problem with the listing of the agenda item on the website, we had to hold it over till today. So we have Ryan Lawler here to speak with you. Ryan, is there anyone else with you that you want me to bring over?
Yes, if Zach Poisson is in the waiting room.
Okay, all right. Inviting Zach to join as a participant as well. So as you, I'm sure recall, this was an EIDR approval. It was granted in April 2021. It was good for 2 years. And one of the conditions of the decision requires that the EIDR approval expires if not used within 2 years, unless the board grants a 1-year extension for a good cause. So you have an application requesting you tonight to grant that 1-year extension. So Ryan and Zach, would you like to make your case to the board for why you need an extension?
Sure. Yeah. So for the record, Zach Poison, Boulder Engineering. So as I'm sure all of you experienced way back in 2021, construction material costs kind of follow the ebb and flow of everything else, where it was either super expensive or not on the shelves or both. So that's kind of what we've been dealing with for these past few years, as again, we've been moving towards kind of a more stable market right now. So for that, now that things are starting to settle out, we're asking for a 1-year extension of this permit while we've been waiting for things to be a little bit more cost effective and just again, availability. I know there's definitely at least one person on the board here that hasn't seen this project probably. So also more than welcome to answer any questions that you might have, or take a quick trip down memory lane. And I can walk you through some of what's currently there and also what we've been proposing.
So Nora, the board in 21 approved the EIDR. It expires after 2 years. They're allowed to come to us with just one-time 1-year extension.
So
right?
they're allowed, it's not just one time. They're allowed to come as many times as the board chooses to approve. So if you approve a 1-year extension, what will happen is this will extend the time for 1 year, and the decision would be the exact same decision. The conditions would be the same conditions that are already imposed, and it would just be 1 year later. And then as it gets close to that 1 year, if for some reason the project still hadn't gotten off the ground, the applicants could come back and ask for another extension. The board it's in their discretion to approve or not approve.
By off the ground, do you mean a building permit issued, or what needs to happen to be called?
They need to start construction and pursue it with expedient. I'm trying to remember the language that's in the language. They have to, I think it's pursue with diligence and expedience. So they have to get started.
Okay.
It wouldn't be enough to have the building permit. They would actually have to break ground and do some work.
Okay. Am I the only board member who was on the board during this time?
2 years ago, I think you are. Yes.
Okay. Well, I remember it, so I'm not going to ask. But if other board members would like to be brought up to speed, I guess you can go ahead and make the ask, or if you want to just let it go for a year, we can do that.
I actually had a question for you, Chris, or Nora, about the conditions. If there are any conditions that might make us reconsider extending for a year.
So I can bring up the conditions if you hold on for just a second. Let me open that file.
And the same question about any waivers that were given.
Nora, while you're bringing that up, I was recalling that as what expected to be dumpster enclosures were something that were part of this. If our bylaw passes, how would that affect this?
So this application, this application did call for a dumpster, and the dumpster was enclosed. So most of the changes that you're recommending to the bylaw require dumpster enclosures on sites that might not have to come before you for EIDR.
Right.
approval.
Okay.
So That's the difference, but this one already has a dumpster enclosure condition. So, I have to check it. It's either a condition or it's actually shown on the plans for the dumpster being enclosed. So the
I think I
waivers,
remember it on the plans.
the waivers that were granted, the first one was to waive the presentation model, as is waived in 99.9% of all applications. The second one was for the board. Let's see, the board finds that the existing motor vehicle light service uses and the reduction from 4 curb cuts to 3 curb cuts within 150 feet of a center line of an intersecting street is an improvement. The reduction in driveways and redesign of the property is an improvement, and the board can waive strict requirements of section 6.1.25 driveways, limiting that there be no more than 2 access egress points to any one parking area. So the existing conditions are 2 separate gas stations, and they each have 2 driveways. So there's a total of 4 driveways there. The proposed plans reduced from 4 to 3 driveways, but did not go down to 2 driveways, which is what the bylaw would otherwise require. And then the third waiver says the board finds the applicant's request for relief from the requirement of the 2.5-foot cover over a pipe drain line cover due to existing connection to the High Street system. So I believe there was a condition where the lines that the connection was being made to in the center of High Street were higher than would allow for 2.5 feet of cover over those. Right, so those are the 3 waivers that were granted, and then the conditions of approval. A lot of them are your standard.
Nora, sorry, can I? Phil is in the attendees. If
Oh,
we could
thank
bring him
you.
over.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right. Thank you. I can't see it when I'm sharing, so let me. Okay, so Phil has been invited to join as a panelist. All right, so the conditions of approval, many of which are your standard conditions, they're grouped into different periods of work. So first, prior to the issuance of building permits, condition 1, applicant shall update site plans last revised April 16th, 2021 to propose precast concrete curb where the extruded concrete curb is shown, and provide an annotation that the sanitary sewer and domestic water service lines maintain a minimum 2-foot separation in compliance with Dedham Westwood Water District per comment number 77 in Professional Service Corporation's memorandum from Thomas C. Houston dated April 23rd, 2021. Condition 2, the applicant shall submit an approval not required plan to the planning board combining the 2 lots. Proof of recording at the registry of deeds shall be submitted to the office of the planning board prior to issuance of a building permit. That has not been done yet. Condition 3, prior to the issuance of a building permit, applicant shall submit mechanical equipment details for the rooftop and ground mounted equipment demonstrating compliance with section 6.6 noise of the zoning bylaw with maximum limit of 60 decibels between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. and maximum of 55 decibels between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. Condition 4, the applicant shall submit to town planner any details and description of any energy efficient technology or fixtures. Condition 5, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan to the town planner, town engineer, and police department that includes traffic controls and on-site measures to minimize trips during construction. Then during construction, condition 6, the applicant owner is responsible for hiring a licensed site professional to supervise the removal and disposal of any contaminated soil associated with the underground tanks and soil disturbance. Condition 7, a copy of this decision and the project plan shall be kept on the project site at all times during construction. Then conditions prior to occupancy. Condition 8, all landscaping shall be installed prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, except that if the building is otherwise ready for occupancy after mid-November and prior to mid-April, the proponent may be issued a conditional certificate of occupancy until installation of the plantings in the next available growing season. Any plantings that do not survive shall be replaced in kind. Condition 9, a final as-built plan shall be submitted in PDF and AutoCAD format to the town planner prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. The as-built plan shall show all structures, parking spaces, walkways, landscaping, pavement markings, site features, and utilities. Condition 10, the town planner and town's engineering service shall perform a final site inspection to verify compliance with the board's final approval and final approved plans prior to issuance of a final certificate of occupancy. Condition 11, the applicant shall be responsible for the cost of restriping on High Street if a two-way left turn lane is determined to be a necessary improvement by the town's transportation engineer and the select board. Funds in the amount of $10,000 for restriping shall be submitted and held in an escrow account. If after 1 year of the certificate of occupancy, the town's transportation engineer and the select board determine the two-way left turn is not needed, the funds shall be returned to the applicant. Then post-construction and ongoing conditions. Condition 12, exterior lights other than security lighting shall be turned off within an hour after the close of business. Number 13, there shall be at least one trash and recycling receptacle outside the building and the property shall be cleaned daily. Number 14, the dumpster enclosure shall be constructed of a solid gated enclosure of wood or vinyl and located on a concrete pad and comply with Westwood Board of Health regulations for a solid enclosure. The enclosure shall be replaced and maintained by the owner as needed. Number 15, the existing fence shall be replaced and repaired as needed by the owner. Number 16, if the project or any condition imposed in this decision requires permit, license, or other approval from any other board, committee, or agency of the town of Westwood or other regulatory agency of the Commonwealth or the federal government, the applicant shall make an appropriate application for the same. Applicant is responsible for filing with the Zoning Board of Appeals for the required special permits, the Conservation Commissioner for the Stormwater Review, and the Board of Health for retail food, tobacco permits, and underground tanks. Number 17, this EIDR approval shall lapse if a substantial use thereof or construction thereunder has not begun, except for good cause, within 2 years following the grant thereof. The planning board may extend such approval for good cause upon the written request of the applicant. In the case of the EIDR approval, the term substantial use thereof or construction thereunder shall mean the commencement and substantial progress of the approved activity. And number 18, any alterations, modifications, deletions, or changes to this EIDR approval shall be requested in writing to the town planner prior to implementation. Changes considered de minimis by the building commissioner may be accepted as a note to the file. Changes considered minor pursuant to section 7.3 of the zoning bylaw may be required to file an administrative EIDR pursuant to section 7.3.6 or return to the planning board as a request for a minor modification at a publicly posted planning board meeting. Alterations determined to be major shall return to the planning board as a formal amendment and new public hearing with the planning board. So those are all the conditions that were opposed in 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so
So
that
will you,
being said,
I was going to say, will you entertain a motion?
I think so. Nora, do you
Right,
have
okay.
language up there for motion?
I do. Just
I
a
have.
minute.
I move that the
Oh.
planning board grant a 1-year extension of the environmental impact design and review EIDR approval, which was granted to Global Montello Group for the redevelopment of the Mobil station and on the run market at 710 to 722 High Street on April 26, 2021, so that the EIDR approval remains valid through April 26, 2024. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this extension? All right, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Phil,
I vote aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, do we have to close this? Was this a hearing?
This is not a hearing. This is
Okay.
just a request for, it's
Gotcha.
essentially a modification.
Okay. All right,
All right,
So we will
Zach
see
and
you
Ryan,
back
thank you very much.
within a year, right?
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, number 2 on your agenda, you had a request for continuation of a public hearing for wireless communication overlay district special permit for a major wireless communication facility, Verizon, at 690 Canton Street. This was continued from your meeting on March 21st, and the applicant has now requested a further continuance. They're looking for additional time to investigate the possibility of dropping the height of the antenna structures to 10 feet to allow it to be for all future antenna replacements to be approved administratively rather than have to apply for a full special permit. So the request is to continue this until your meeting on May 16th.
So I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for the Wireless Communication Overlay District WCOD special permit application filed by Cellco Partnership DBA Verizon Wireless to Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. via Zoom, where a Zoom link and associated call-in numbers will be provided on town's calendar on the homepage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ellen?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Great, thank you. Now, the third item on your agenda is continuation of a public hearing for consideration of the flexible multiple use overlay district special permit for rehabilitation and expansion of the historic Obed Baker House and construction of a new veterinary facility at 909 High Street. This also was continued from your hearing on March 21st. So for this application, we have our peer review consultant, Bill Paradis, and looking for Christine Meany. Christine, if you could let me know who else to bring over. Hi, Christine, who is joining you today?
Hi, Nora. I believe Jerry Dundon may be here, and I'm not sure if Michelle Grenier is here or Warren Friedenfeld.
I don't see Warren, but
I see a Michelle.
yes, brought over Michelle or requested Michelle to join us, and Gerard. Gerald, sorry, Gerald. All right.
Okay, great.
Keep an eye out for, I'm sorry, was it Warren? Is that who?
Warren, he's the architect for the project. I'm not sure if he's going to be here.
I'll keep watching for him.
Okay.
So
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as the board recalls, this is the third hearing that you're having on this matter. The first time, I believe, it was immediately continued, and then you had discussion at your second meeting, and now this is your third one to review the application.
Yes. Good evening. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at the revised plans, but I can try to share my screen here. Okay. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Oh, I might not know how to do this quite yet.
There's a green arrow at the bottom of your
Okay,
screen.
share screen. Okay. Up, there we go. Okay. Oh, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So, as discussed during the last meeting, we made some changes. One of them is, let me see if I can zoom in here. We actually added a bike rack right here. It's a 2-bike bike rack, and I can show the detail as well. It's on the site plan. We changed the street trees. We had reused the existing crabapple trees as street trees. So now the crabapples are in this area here. And instead, we've used the linden trees. And actually, if you forgive me, I just have to see. A black tupelo tree, which is right here. And these are pollinator friendly, and They are used for street trees in other towns, but again, if you have better suggestions for street trees, we can always modify the plan. There's another tupelo tree here and a linden here. And then the other change is we squared off the turnaround here for the vehicles, and the remaining comment that we had from Beta Group, it was regarding the soil conditions underlaying the site. I had to reanalyze the drainage design, and to not get into it, we have to balance pre-construction runoff flows and post-construction runoff flows. So in order to do that, this is a crushed stone filled trench. So all of the runoff from the lawn areas and any surface water flow will be intercepted by this trench prior to running off into the wetland. The addition of this trench, the hydrology calculations balanced pre and post runoff flows and runoff volumes. And I believe Phil indicated that Beta was satisfied with this revised drainage design. So that's the changes on this plan. Let me just pull up another, oh gosh. Okay. So these are the revised site plans, and I've highlighted on these all the changes. So, no, I thought they were highlighted. Okay, yes. There's the stone-filled trench, the parking lot bump out. Oh, one other thing I did is I added a detail, and I'll show you as I scroll through the plans, for under the construction underneath the dog exercise area. It's enhanced filtration with different layers of sand, stone, and that should provide enhanced filtering for any urine in these two areas here where the dogs, will be brought outside. So again, there's the stone-filled trench and the street trees. On this plan, again, one of Beta's last comments was the stone tracking pad for erosion control. So we increased the size of the tracking pad. Let's see. Oh, and in addition to this stone-filled trench, again, in order to balance pre and post-construction runoff flows and volumes, right here, this was always a yard drain that this is a depression right here where limited surface flow would go into the drain, and then it would just flow into this drain manhole and out. I added a couple of subsurface Cultec recharge structures to recharge to the groundwater any flow. So basically, again, reducing runoff flows and volumes into the wetland. Let's see. Okay, this is just a cross-sectional detail of the one-to-one slope, the GeoWeb, and this is a construction detail for that stone-filled trench, just to make construction a little easier so they know what they're building. There's an impervious membrane here to prevent any breakout, but basically any flow coming from the site will get into this trench, recharge to the groundwater. And in larger storm events, very minimum is going to run down the slope into the wetland. So basically, this trench will handle the majority of the runoff coming off the lawn area from the site. And there's the bike rack detail that I added. And this is the construction underneath the dog exercise and relief area. As I said, this is the lawn, and then you have different layers of crushed stone and sand, pea stone for enhanced filtration underneath those areas. So that's basically all the changes, I believe, as discussed during our last meeting, and to satisfy beta group's last remaining comments.
All right, thank you very much. I think before we open up to questions for the applicant, I'd like to just bring in Phil, see if he has any other additional concerns, and then we can ask questions of either Phil or the applicant. Phil, any issues that have not gone recognized?
No, Christina's been very responsive and very innovative in how she's going to deal with it. So no, we're very pleased at the way this project has turned out. There are a few conditions, but I think Nora has already included those in the conditions. So.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we'll open up to board members or questions for Phil or the applicant. I guess specifically the applicant. I see. Before I get to you, Ellen, I see your hand up. Gerald Dundon, I believe, is part of the applicant team. He's had his hand up for some time, and I don't know if he still wishes to be called on.
Yes, I believe Jerry might want to speak to the fact of, I know we discussed during last meetings the classification of the site regarding the very small generator status. And I know he's been working on that. So he probably wants to just update you.
Now would probably be a good time to hear from.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I had my hand up because my fault. I should have pushed some buttons on my screen. Regarding those questions, I'm going to leave that to Michelle, and maybe
okay. I'm sorry,
etc. So Michelle, if you could take it from here.
Yes, hi. I did write a letter to the board, and I'm wondering if you have any questions for me.
I think we may have a couple. Yeah. So you want to respond to questions rather than present any information?
Yeah.
Sure, if you'd like. I think I can read my letter, or I can say what I wrote in the letter if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, whatever your pleasure is.
Sure. Why don't we hear from what you wrote in the letter?
Okay,
Actually, I'm sorry. Pardon me.
No,
if you don't.
Go ahead, Kate.
Before you get started, my camera seems to be glitching a little bit, so I'm going to rejoin on another laptop and then leave. So if Westwood Media could watch for me in the waiting room and pull me over, I'll then leave this one. Sorry about that.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Kate. I'm not certain how long this will take, Kate. Hopefully it's fairly quick.
You can go ahead. I'll still be watching. You just won't see that I'm watching.
Oh, all right. Okay. I got you.
Thank
So
you.
go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, thank you, Kate. So I reviewed the entire drug list, and I know a lot of those drugs. They're also, most of them are used in doctor offices too for patients. And believe it or not, humans and animals use the same drugs. I just want to let you know that. But it is a small generator, and I included with my letter a fact sheet from the Department of Health. DEP publishes it on their website, and that's the Mass Department of Health, but local health departments do also. And veterinarians fall under very small quantity generators, but they still must follow the regulations that are set by the state. They fall under that. It includes all the drugs that they use, all the needles they use, all the biological waste they use, the medical parts from animals. They have to dispose, like years ago, they used to take their animals and put them in a bag and throw them in the dumpster. They can't do that anymore. So all the regulations have changed since years ago. And I just want to let you know that. And all the chemicals they use, the fluids, they're all disposed according to regulations that are set by the state of Massachusetts. And as I said in my letter, homeowners take home needles and drugs also, and they're under no regulation. So usually veterinarians will give them some help with how they dispose of them. And as I said in my letter, a lot of towns take needles. The health departments take needles, and they have to be specially packaged. And so I'll open it up to questions.
All right, thank you. Ellen, I saw your hand up first, so.
My questions aren't so much about that. So I don't know. I want to just defer to Josh first, because if he still has questions about that aspect, that's really his wheelhouse. Since we're on that subject, I'd rather start there.
Okay.
So if they're not, then I can add my
Josh,
comments.
are your questions related to what Michelle spoke of?
I'll keep my questions associated with that here, and then Ellen can jump in later.
Sure.
So Michelle, unfortunately, the letter that you uploaded or was uploaded, I couldn't review. It's corrupted in the thing, in the portal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was the same situation. That's why I was looking forward to hearing you tell us the letter.
Yeah. So, I have a couple questions, I guess.
Sure.
You call the business a small quantity generator. Is it a small quantity generator or very small quantity generator? Because it makes a difference.
Very small. Actually, it's a very small. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. It is a very small. Yes.
Okay.
And it says that in my letter. I don't know why I read small. Small, as opposed to medical offices that are large, and some are small. Oh, there's the letter. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Nora.
So I think the important thing that I'm concerned about here is the fact that it doesn't matter what type of business you are, and the fact that you're even sort of comparing, some of the I won't call them patients, but some of the patients' owners, to your business is sort of a red herring here. I want to make sure that you guys understand that you have a responsibility under the DEP, as well as being in the water overlay district, of handling your potentially acutely hazardous materials, which is more concerning to me, because your previous drug listing did show some acutely toxic materials that were going to be on hand. And
they have to put them in special containers, actually, Josh. They have to put them in special containers, and they have to be picked up. And that's a mass regulation.
Yeah, I understand that. My concern is that if it is acutely toxic, you can't be a very small quantity generator, right? In the document.
No, you can. You can.
No.
Cannot.
Yeah, cannot.
Cannot.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, if you read the fact sheet, all veterinarians are considered very small. They fall under that category.
Could you pull up that spreadsheet and show me exactly where?
So I have the spreadsheet Michelle submitted to you. The fact sheet for environmental compliance for veterinary facilities, and it's very clear from this that a very small quantity generator can have no acute waste, less than 220 pounds of total waste, and no acute waste. Any acute waste up to 1 kilogram places you in the category of small.
Well, I think you'd have to ask them what their quantity is normally, but most veterinarians are well below that.
Yeah.
Below zero?
Well, it's not zero.
It is zero.
Sorry.
Zero?
None allowed. Very small quantity generator. None allowed. Zero.
Yeah.
So I'm
Can I-
very, yes, please do clear this up because
Yes.
Wait, I have it
we're
right
getting
here.
caught up in the semantics, and I just want to make sure you guys understand.
Yeah,
you're allowed.
I fully understand the point you're making, Josh, and you're 100% right that in Massachusetts, unlike the rest of the country or large other portions of it, very small generators cannot produce any acutely hazardous waste, right? They can produce up to 220 pounds of hazardous waste with no acutely hazardous in there. All of the other veterinarians in town are designated right now as very small scale generators, as are the veterinary clinics in other towns locally. The list of chemicals and drugs that we will have on the premises will essentially be identical to it. And we also assert that we will not be using any drugs that are acutely hazardous for the very reason that you've just stated.
Great.
Okay?
That's what I wanted to hear. Not that
you're
we're
100%.
going to have it and we're not going to have it. All right.
I agree. The first time we spoke about this, I happened to write down the regulations as it required by the EPA and not the Massachusetts ones. That was an error on my part. But like I say, all other chemicals that we will be using on site will not be acutely hazardous. And therefore, so it really comes down to the question of, can we keep it within 220 pounds? The answer as well is that in order for us to operate, we will require a license from Mass DEP, and we will operate under that license. And that license is subject to auditing of what's going on and subject to all of the regulations of Mass DEP.
That's great. I'm just getting concerned when we're hearing the conflicting stories and Michelle was presenting something else and then you're saying something else. So just so we're all on the same page, there are not going to be acutely hazardous waste on site near our water. All right, great.
Correct. And if there were, it would not have that classification, nor would any of the other veterinary clinics in the town or in surrounding towns.
Because, you know, in reality, that would also change some of the requirements for us because that would be another exemption that you'd have to seek.
I agree.
Laura?
Understood.
Correct.
Because the SQGs are allowed, but SQG needs a special permit.
Agreed. Understood.
Thanks.
Thank you, Josh. So let's go back to Ellen. Josh, I know you may have a couple more questions on some other topics, but let's give Ellen a chance to ask her questions.
Thank you. And Josh, thank you. I was anxious to hear your thoughts on that whole section of the project, since that really is your area of expertise. So I feel reassured that we're all on the same page about that now. I appreciate that conversation. Mine were more comments than questions. I really was excited when I saw the revised drainage, the trench. I think that's a huge improvement and I was really happy to see it. And also just a personal thank you for taking the time. I know it seemed to some people like it was a small thing, but the drainage under the elimination area, I appreciate you putting the time into that. And when I saw that in the plan, it looks really good. I'm no expert, but it certainly looked well thought out and like it will be effective. And being so close to wetlands, I really appreciate that. So thank you for taking that concern and addressing it as well as you did. My only other question, and it's just for my interest, is have you gone to conservation yet, or have you not had your hearing with them yet?
Nope, we should hopefully, fingers crossed, have our final meeting tomorrow night. Yeah, we've already been before them. The first time was the joint meeting. We were with them separately 3 weeks ago, and then we're going back tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. I know that they usually meet Wednesdays, but I wasn't sure if they'd given you any feedback on the proposed tree species that we had talked about some stuff here. I hadn't had a chance to attend their last meeting, so I was curious if they had any recommendations other than what we had kind of been talking about.
No, not really. No. I think I made these changes to the plan and brought it to them because it was the day after. So they did see these changes. And not many comments on the trees, no.
Cool. Yeah, I know the black tupelo is a native, and I know you said linden. Linden, there's like 30 different subspecies. So I'm going to assume that they're like a native linden.
Yeah, I think
Awesome.
it's green spire, little leaf linden. Yes, yep.
Great,
Mhm.
great. I know you guys have been very conscientious throughout the process about using not just native to America, which is a good thing, but native to New England. So again, I really appreciate your attention to that and your commitment to that. And I'm just thank you for incorporating everything that we brought to your attention. And I'm very pleased with the plans that you submitted. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Any other board members with comments or questions for the applicant?
I'm just gonna.
Yes, Phil.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Ellen was just saying on the trench. That was the what caught my eye, and I just want to just echo. Don't need to spend time, but that was a very positive. And I want to thank Josh also for giving explanations and following through on those questions. Very greatly done on the revisions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I would like to echo a lot of what my fellow board members have said. I think this project in particular has been very well vetted, and I think we have contributed to, I think, what will ultimately be a success. We're really looking forward to seeing this part of our town built up. It's really going to be something to see the house finally built up. I saw it moved back in the 90s, I think, and to now see it with plans to move forward will be exciting. So I, like my fellow board members, are excited to see the veterinary station complete, and I think there'll be a good contribution to our town. So I don't have any other comments. I think it's been it's questions and comments have been administered to death, so to speak. You guys have done a great job presenting here, so I want to commend you.
Oh, thank you.
So that being
I'm gonna
said,
beat it to death a little bit more if I can.
Oh, I didn't get back to you, Josh. I apologize.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Oh, no worries. I actually had a question for Beta, if Phil's still on.
Yeah, he's on.
Present.
Hey, Phil. So I was just wondering, in the assessment, there was no sort of contemplation of noise associated with the review. They will have an emergency generator that's going to need to be tested. How or what did we look at for that, if anything?
So my experience with noise with emergency generators are they're very infrequent, and they're typically during the day. It would not surprise me if that's the answer that the applicant would give. Obviously, an emergency generator would need to run when there's emergency, and
Tested on a weekly basis usually, right?
I think it's more like on a monthly basis, but I would have to defer to the applicant on that.
To be honest, I don't know, unfortunately. Jerry, would you know?
I don't, but there will presumably be some procedure around that. I hadn't considered the noise thing, but I'm guessing it will be fairly minimal.
Yes, yep.
Okay, I would just, in respect to some of the people that live nearby, that we could build that in for specific testing, not early in the day or late at night. In my experience, it's a weekly testing, and they do run over 120 decibels at the source. So that would be potentially annoying for some of the neighbors there.
In other applications, the planning board has required testing to be on a weekday between 12 noon and 3 p.m. So we could have a condition requiring the same here.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. And then obviously with that, you're going through the same permitting with the Mass DEP for air quality as required. if required, depending on the generator size. Yes,
Oh, okay.
just as a reminder. And do you guys have an LSP that will be on site? I had brought up the last meeting, that there was an obvious oil sheen on the wetlands back there. I don't know if anything was done with that or looked into. I don't see any additional reports or anything.
Was it definitely oil, or because organics do actually cause a sheen? Oils tend to disperse, and organics tend to form like blocky, they stay on the water and they're blocky. I have not been out there. But to answer your question, as of right now, I don't believe anyone's looked into it thus far.
That's a bit concerning.
It didn't come up as a reportable release on the Mass DEP searchable sites.
If we don't report it as a reportable, if we don't look into it, it definitely won't show up as a reportable release.
I don't know, Nora, I'm not sure what it's town owned. I'm not quite sure how to go about this. I don't think an LSP has been retained. We can have someone walk the edge of wetland, but like I said, there are organic that do float on the water that create a sheen. I don't know if Karen can take a look at it. She would be familiar with it. I can mention it to her tomorrow, just to figure out exactly what it is.
Yeah, so the town owns that part of the property?
The town owns all of the property currently, and there's essentially a purchase and sales agreement under the RFP where it'll be transferred to Todd Sullivan Construction following approval of this permit and the Conservation Commission's notice of intent filing. When an order of conditions is issued for that, then we'll have a closing and the property will become in private ownership at that time.
I would recommend an LSP be as part of this project as well, given the historical dumping nature of some of that back area and the rest of the project. So I really want to see it go forward, but I want to see it go forward in the right way. That's all my comments. Sorry, be down.
Ellen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, actually, Josh, I'm glad you mentioned that because I know that had come up last time, and that's I'd forgotten to mention or to address that as well. But that's a really good point. Just because there's no reported release, and that has been kind of a place for illicit dumping for a long time. So I think I would echo Josh's concern, and I would support either adding it as a condition to have that evaluated, or if it's currently still town property, I don't know who on the town side has to authorize that. But I would echo that I would like to see that confirmed as to what exactly it is. I don't think we should be making assumptions about what it is or is not. Some sampling or something, just get some testing done, and then depending on what it comes back as, we can go from there.
Okay, Michelle, you have your hand up?
Yes, yeah, I did. So organics, when they're decomposing, often leave oils look like the oil, because I had one in my yard and I called DEP and they came over and looked. It's just organic. Soil and water do that. So I think you should have Karen look at it first. Absolutely. Because it looks like oil, and I'm not kidding you. It looks just like oil. So I would have Karen look at it because she's seen that kind of stuff before. We've talked about it, and that would be a good idea.
I can get in touch with her tomorrow.
Okay. Sorry, I'm forgetting, when are you going to conservation?
Tomorrow, yep,
Tomorrow, okay.
yep, yep. Maybe she'll have time to take a quick look out there.
Nora, do you know
Josh,
if
was
it's
it-
expected that tomorrow would be the last hearing for conservation?
It is. It's expected that
Yeah.
they'll approve it.
Yes.
Sorry, Christine, you had a question for Josh?
Yes, yes. Oh, was the sheen you observed, was it continuous or was it in a certain area?
I just saw it in a certain area over by where the water heaters were,
Okay.
but this was also weeks ago at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, well, our approval is obviously conditioned on conservation. So I don't know, can we make this aware, make Karen aware of our discussion points, Nora?
We can, and you have a catch-all condition in your standard conditions that requires any necessary town, state, or federal approvals that may be
right.
necessary to be sought. So I think this would fall under that category.
Okay. Josh, does that give you comfort with that condition?
Yeah,
I know you want to see it done, but I mean, our conditions will hopefully help that happen.
yeah. Honestly, I'd really like to see a condition of an LSP on this project as a part of the conditions for approval. So that would make me more comfortable.
Nora, could we include in the catch-all an LSP and just say including an LSP or somewhere as part of it?
Yeah, you can require a condition that requires analysis by an LSP. I think the question is when that would occur. Would that occur on a town-owned property, or would that occur once the property is in private ownership?
I'm saying through the process of the project to be retained by the development. I see those as two separate things.
So that would be, you're saying private then, is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, I'm saying as part of the project that I'd like an LSP to be required as part of the project.
Do we know what the turnaround is on this LSP? The time frame?
An LSP would be the licensed site professional for the project if or when they come up with something unknown oil tank that they hit, right? As part of all, I mean, I'm sure many of you guys have worked with LSPs in the past. The oil sheen is completely separate, something that need to look into first, or I would highly recommend looking into first, but the LSP being part of the project, that would be my condition for the project.
So it is typical for a construction project to call in an LSP if they find something suspicious. So for an example, the Wentworth Hall construction project that the town was working on, when they were digging for a foundation there, they ran across an old oil tank that had been buried. That property where Wentworth Hall is now used to be a gas station. So the town had purchased it long ago and removed all the oil tanks, and there was a landscaped island and nobody ever looked under the landscaped island. So when they were doing the construction for Wentworth Hall, they dug under the landscaped island, hit a tank, and immediately called in an LSP. And that's typically the procedure. You call in an LSP in any construction project if you experience a condition that warrants further investigation. It is not typical to require an LSP to be associated with the project unless you've gotten to a state like that. So I think we have two different tracks here. One, if you're concerned that the sheen on the water requires investigation now, then you're asking for the town to hire an LSP to investigate this current situation on a property the town owns. Another is if the applicant runs into any problems that would warrant an LSP, then you require the applicant to bring one in. So they're two different things, and the board can write conditions however it chooses. But if you are requiring an LSP to come in now and evaluate the wetland area, that is that's requesting a reporting on a town-owned property.
So what my request would be is to have an LSP on retainer for the project. Just sort of like you said, if something does come up, but I would prefer that to be a town approved LSP, somebody who more so, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I just have
So
concerns.
I don't think the town would approve. I don't think we would be in the position of approving any consultant, whether it's an LSP or an engineer. The town would not take on the liability of doing that. So the applicant, if they're going to have a building permit for this project, and building inspectors will be out there routinely, if anyone introduces the possibility of a problem, then the building commissioner can require that an LSP be brought into the site by the applicant. But it's not usual for the town to require an applicant to have an LSP on retainer. The town, on a project that they're working, may choose to have an LSP on retainer, but it's not something, I haven't seen an application to date, including University Station, where the town required as permitting that the applicant have someone on retainer. I've never seen that before.
Okay. Actually, I was just wondering, the last project that we just continued, the Mobil, didn't that require an LSP?
Oh, well, that was for during the period of removal of oil tanks. So that project required removal of oil tanks. And so it required, while the oil tanks were being removed, for an LSP to be on site to witness that removal, so that if there was a spillage, they could catch it right away. And that's what we did at Wentworth Hall. So when we knew there was a tank there, we hired, actually, I believe it was a beta LSP who came out and stood there and watched the construction while it went on. And we were lucky there was no contamination in that case. But if there had been a leak, they would have been there to immediately investigate and sample.
Great.
So it seems like the most we can do is make building inspector aware of our concerns, so that while he's out there, he can keep an eye towards that situation. And if he deems it necessary, he can order that. Is that right, Nora? Is that an assessment?
He can report it. So I think that's what would happen. So if
Would
you
it be under his purview?
Yes, and he would immediately report it, or would our fire department personnel who are at the site. So if this happens occasionally on development projects throughout the town, where someone's building a new home, and they come across an oil tank that was buried that they weren't aware of, the building department, the fire department go out and investigate, and it becomes a reportable event if there is leakage, but they have someone on site to witness the operations. But you don't get to that point unless you have reason to believe there's a problem. So a standard construction project does not have an LSP unless you have reason to think that there's a contaminant on the site. If it was a gas station, we'd have reason to think that there was.
Or an oil sheen.
Or an oil sheen, right? So that's the question. If you're concerned about the oil sheen now, that's a different condition. That's a condition for the town more than for the applicant. If you're asking the town to hire someone now to test the water where you saw the sheen in the wetlands, then that's a request to the town to perform that.
Yeah, I guess the first step then would be to have Karen go look. All right.
Well, if I may say, don't forget, there's a pretty big outfall just east of us that street drainage goes into that wetland. So there's a lot of factors. You know, it's not a pristine area. So the sheen could have been from the street drainage outfall.
Just saying that it is a requirement to report oil sheens in waterways, right?
Well, this is a drainage outfall. So there is oil in the drainage system from the streets and stuff. I'm not an environment. I don't have an environmental background, but this is basically, it accepts drainage from the street.
I believe you have to report a point source discharge if it's discovered. A non-point source discharge isn't reportable, but if you're aware of it, then you ought to improve your drainage system to prevent its continuation.
So as the storm, I don't know if Karen manages the stormwater, like the NIPD's permit for the town, or the MS4 permit. Okay.
No, so that's managed by our Public Works Department. So I will inform Todd Corchin, our Public Works Director, tomorrow of the concern, and I will also ask Karen to go out and take a look as well. And together they can review the property and see if there's anything that, any action the town needs to take.
Okay, great.
All right. Any other comments or questions for the applicant from board members? Okay, I'm not seeing or hearing any. I see that 2 members of the applicant team have their hands raised. Is that just from last time, or do you have additional comments? Okay, hearing none. Nora, next steps. What are our options?
If the board is ready to make a motion, I have a draft you can review. It is lengthy. So we'll begin with waivers that are necessary, but to show we have over 24 proposed conditions for the approval. So we can perhaps the best thing to do is first go through the waivers. If the board's willing to grant the waivers, then I can read you the conditions. You can let me know if you want to hear any changes to those conditions. If you do not, then someone can make a motion by just saying so moved. So would you like to begin with the waivers?
Yeah, I think that seems logical.
Okay, so there are 3 proposed waivers that have been requested. The first is a waiver from strict compliance with section 7.3.7.2 of the Westwood zoning bylaw requiring the submission of a photometric plan. The second is a waiver from strict compliance with section 7.3.7.3 of the zoning bylaw requiring the submission of a full traffic study and allow for acceptance of the submitted summary traffic analysis. And the third is a waiver from strict compliance with section 7.3.7.7 of the bylaw requiring submission of a presentation model. So if you are in agreement with those waivers, I would need someone to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move that the planning board grant the following waiver in association with the application for a flexible multiple use overlay district FMUOD special permit for the proposed Obed Baker House mixed use redevelopment at 909 High Street as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on January 6th, 2023. Number 1, waiver for strict compliance with section 7.3.7.2 of the Westwood zoning bylaw requiring the submission of a photometric plan. Number 2, waiver from the strict compliance with section 7.3.7.3 of the Westwood zoning bylaw requiring the submission of a full traffic study to allow for acceptance of the submitted summary traffic analysis. Number 3, waiver from strict compliance with section 7.3.7.7 of the Westwood zoning bylaw requiring the submission of a presentation model.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the waivers requested? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Josh?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the waivers are granted.
Okay, now I'll read the 24 conditions and please ask me to stop if there's any condition you'd like to amend. The first proposed condition is except as modified by the conditions and findings hereof, the project shall comply with the project plans in all respects, and the applicant shall pursue completion of the project with reasonable diligence and continuity. Number 2, if the project or any condition imposed in this decision requires any other permit, license, or other approval from any board or commission or any agency of the town of Westwood or other regulatory agency of the Commonwealth or the federal government, the applicant shall make an appropriate application for the same and shall obtain all required approvals prior to the start of any work. If any condition of such permit, license, or other approval from any other board, committee, or agency is inconsistent with this decision, the applicant shall make application to the planning board for an amendment of this decision, and the planning board shall consider such application in accordance with the requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and all applicable planning board rules and regulations. Condition 3, the applicant shall file an application for limited environmental impact and design review approval for the proposed cemetery barn on an adjacent town-owned parcel and shall obtain limited EIDR approval for that structure prior to the issuance of a building permit for the proposed veterinary building. 4, the applicant shall file an application for an approval not required plan to combine the two parcels into a single parcel of land. 5, any proposed alterations, modifications, deletions, or changes to the FMUOD special permit shall be requested in writing to the town planner and building commissioner prior to implementation. Proposed alterations, which are considered de minimis by the building commissioner, may be accepted as a note to the file. Proposed alterations, which are considered minor by the building commissioner, shall require the filing of an application of modification of FMUOD special permit for review by the planning board at a publicly posted planning board meeting. Proposed alterations that are determined to be major by the building commissioner or by the planning board shall be considered by the planning board as a formal amendment to the FMUOD special permit and will require a new public hearing before the planning board. Number 6, the applicant shall submit a fully revised set of plans and updated operations and maintenance plan, O&M plan, addressing all remaining comments in the memorandum from Philip F. Paradis Jr. P.E. of Beta Group, Inc. to the Town of Westwood Planning Board dated March 31st, 2023, and all revisions required by the Planning Board at the April 11th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. Said fully revised set of plans shall be reviewed by the town planner and approved if consistent with all the above. So I could just stop on that one condition. I have not heard any revisions requested by the Planning Board, so I will take out that language and all revisions. Condition 7, the applicant shall submit a stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWIP, for review and approval by the town planner and consulting town engineer prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project. Number 8, the applicant shall submit a construction sequencing plan for review and approval by the town planner and consulting town engineer prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project. Number 9, all project-related construction activities shall comply with the time frame set forth in the town's general bylaw section 292 for noise and construction, which allows such work Monday through Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and Sunday between the hours of 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. 10, all trucks carrying earth material to or from 909 High Street shall be required to access the property directly over the site access drive via eastbound or westbound High Street, and no trucks associated with the project shall be permitted to travel on any non-arterial road in Westwood. 11, any trucks delivering or removing materials shall be covered as to prevent said material from spilling onto the public roadway, and any spilled material shall be cleaned from High Street and any other roadways traveled in the transport of earth material to and from the site. Number 12, the existing pavement on High Street and on the site access drive shall be protected from damage from loading and unloading of material and or equipment related to the proposed construction. 13, there shall be no substandard or hazardous spill material used with this project. Prior to the import of any earth material, the applicant shall submit certification to the town planner and building commissioner from the company providing said material, stating that the material does not contain any hazardous material. Number 14, all chemicals used during construction shall be located in a designated containment area and shall be located on an impervious surface designed to prevent the discharge of contaminated runoff into the soil or groundwater. Number 15, the applicant shall promptly repair any damage which the applicant or its agents caused to sidewalks, street pavement, signs, or other fixtures or features within the public right-of-way after first obtaining permission from the Town Department of Public Works or Massachusetts Department of Public Works. Such repairs shall be performed to the Town of Westwood standards. Number 16, all landscaping approved herein shall be installed at the earliest possible date, but only during the spring growing season running from April 15th through June 15th, or during the fall growing season running from September 15th through November 15th. Any plantings that do not survive shall be replaced in kind in perpetuity at the applicant's expense. Number 17, no certificate of occupancy for the proposed veterinary building shall be issued unless and until the new cemetery barn on the adjacent town-owned parcel has been fully constructed and a certificate of occupancy has first been issued for the new cemetery barn. Number 18, all proposed dumpsters, compactors, trash and/or recycling containers, generators, gas tanks, electrical switchgear, electric transformers, and similar features shall be fully screened from view by gated solid enclosures constructed of wood, stone, brick, or similar materials, and shall not include chain link fencing. Dumpsters, compactors, trash and/or recycling containers shall have an impermeable lid or cover integral to the dumpster, compactor, or container itself, and shall be located on an impervious surface designed to prevent the discharge of contaminated runoff or leachate into the soil or groundwater. Gates shall be closed and fastened at all times other than active loading and or unloading of trash and or recycling materials. 19, no inorganic landscape chemicals, fertilizers, or pesticides shall be used at the property. Number 20, no diesel fuel shall be used or stored on the property. All generators shall be operated with propane or natural gas and shall be tested on a regular basis between the hours of 12 noon and 3 p.m. on weekdays. Number 21, the applicant shall obtain approval by the town planner for any signage not included in this application and shall obtain all required signage permits from the building division prior to installation. Number 22, a copy of this decision and the project plan shall be kept on the project site at all times. Number 23, the applicant shall submit as-built plans at the conclusion of construction, which shall indicate the location of all water quality units, underground storage tanks, pipes and/or appurtenances which remain on the site prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the property. The as-built plan shall be delivered in a format approved by the Information Systems Director from compatibility with the Town of Westwood GIS database. And number 24, this FMUOD special permit shall lapse if a substantial use thereof or construction thereunder has not begun, except for good cause, within 2 years following the grant thereof. The planning board may extend such approval for good cause upon the written request of the applicant. In the case of this approval, the term substantial use thereof or construction thereunder shall mean the commencement and substantial continued progress of the approved activity. If I could just go back, one of the conditions, the one requiring replacement of landscaping in perpetuity, says at the applicant's expense. I believe that should be at the property owner's expense in case the applicant is no longer the property owner at some point in the future. Oops. Other than that, did anyone have any concerns or request any revisions? And if not, if you'd like to make a motion, what you could do is read the top portion of the motion and say the conditions as previously read.
I move that the planning board grant a flexible multiple use overlay district FMUOD special permit for the proposed Obed Baker House mixed use redevelopment at 909 High Street as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on January 6, 2023, subject to the conditions as previously read by Nora.
We have a motion. Anyone like to make a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the conditions or the application itself? Hearing none. And Ellen.
Sorry,
yes.
sorry. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So if Karen goes out, these conditions cover the circumstance that if Karen goes out and determines that whatever the material is that is being observed or whatever conditions that the site require or warrant further investigation and decides to move forward with that, the conditions as outlined that were just read, that covers that potential situation?
It covers any permit, license, or regulatory action required by the town, state, or federal government. So if there's a reportable event that needs to be addressed and cleaned up, that is covered by that condition.
Okay, I that's what I understood, but I just wanted to be absolutely sure before that we don't need to bake anything else in, extra language, since there's a lot of conditions there.
I believe that's an all-encompassing condition that we've used several times, and we have relied upon it to require any approval that was deemed necessary.
Okay, great. It sounds pretty ironclad. I just, like I said, before I vote, I just wanted to make sure that my understanding was correct and that we are covered for any potential eventuality there, that it's all kind of under that umbrella. So, okay, great.
Right.
Sorry, didn't mean to slow
No,
things down.
and
I just wanted to be sure.
If I could add to that, so if Karen and Todd go out there and look at it and they find that there's a point source discharge that's going on now on town-owned property, that's a completely different matter, and the town is required to address that, and that has nothing to do with this application. So that would be the town's responsibility for correcting a situation on property it owns.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the conditions that Nora read or any other aspect of the application? All right, I'm not seeing any. So Nora, we're voting on the conditions.
This is a public hearing, so before you take a vote, if you'd like to ask.
We're first one. Yeah, we'll put it out to public comment, questions. Give a few seconds for those members as attendees to ask any questions.
I don't see any hands raised.
No, I don't see
Nothing in the
anything
chat
typed into the Q&A. So Nora, are we voting on the conditions or the application as a whole?
You're voting on the motion to grant a special permit with the conditions that I read.
With the conditions, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't see any public comments, so we have a motion and a second and no further discussion from board members. So we'll take a roll call vote as Nora suggested. Ellen.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
And then we need a motion to close the
Motion to
public hearing.
close the hearing.
I move that the planning board close the public hearing for consideration of the proposed FMUOD special permit for 909 High Street.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close this public hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ellen.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
I vote aye also.
All right.
Thank you very much to the applicant. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
Okay, and
And-
now your next application is for continuation of an FMUOD special permit application for mixed-use development at 436 Washington Street. And this application was continued from your last hearing session on March 21st. I'm bringing over the applicant, Peter Zaka, and our consultant, Tom Houston. And I believe Bob Rigo is also associated with this project. Peter, if there's anyone else, you can let me know and I'll bring them over. See, Peter is here twice. So he's come over on one end. Hopefully that's the one he has audio on. Peter, if you'd like to promote your other entry to a panelist, you just have to accept that.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I be heard? I apologize for being on here twice. I'm on my laptop, and for some reason it kept freezing, so I went over to another computer, but it is unfrozen.
All right. Well, we see you and hear you.
Good. I believe Bob Rigo, is he should be
He's
on
here. Yes, he's here.
Oh, okay. I didn't see him. Thank you. I'm going to apologize. The applicant himself is running late. He was actually at a ZBA meeting in an adjoining town, and he was supposedly the first one on and assumed he would be here in time, but we can, your permission, proceed without him. Thank you. Just to update everybody, since the last time we met, We've submitted a couple of updated, well, the big one was we submitted a whole new, I believe, updated stormwater management report, submitted some additional updates on the plans themselves. Those have been reviewed by your consultant, your peer review consultant, and I believe I saw something uploaded saying that we had satisfied his questions that he had raised in his peer review report. In addition to that, I think Nora may have caught this. It turned out one of the parking aisles was 23.5 feet. So earlier today, I updated Bob Rigo's latest plan that actually showed that as 23.5 feet and substituted the bollards for a fence around the property. And that because of that, we would have to ask for an additional waiver from your 24-foot requirement on the aisle widths as shown on the plan. We also uploaded a very preliminary draft of a parking management plan that had been requested. And let's see, what else did I do? Or did we do? I believe that is it. I believe we've attempted to comply with the requests of the board, unless I missed anything.
Right. Thank you very much. Mr. Houston with us. Tom, would you be able to comment on changes made or reactions?
Yeah, I'd be pleased to do that, Mr. Chairman. We did review the latest submission from the applicant, and I think fundamentally they've responded to all the issues. They did submit a swept path plan showing a truck turning around on the site. The truck they used was a little bit smaller than typical. So we superimposed a standard size truck, and I think what it shows is they've done what they can with the site, but if you get a full size SU vehicle, which is like a trash truck, it's going to take some maneuvering to get it in and out of the site, but there's really not much further that can be done. We're completely satisfied with the stormwater changes. We have an infiltration facility in both the north and south parking lots now, and that answers all the questions. They did completely replace the pavement with a new pavement, which means it'll drain properly. It's going to be durable. The only issue there, and this is kind of a question for the applicant and the board, the planning board standards for parking lot design do require a 5-inch bituminous concrete pavement, and the applicant was proposing a 3-inch. So that would either have to be upgraded or the applicant would have to seek relief for that. So other than that, I think the questions are all answered. The applicant's been very responsive, and I think we have no further comments at this point.
All right, thank you very much. At this point, we'll open it up to comments or questions from board members for the applicant or from our peer review consultants. Yes, Ellen.
Thank you for the parking management plan. I was thrilled to see that. And I did review it, and I'm not an expert, but I believe what you are proposing sounds very reasonable. It alleviates a lot of my concerns. And I appreciate you getting that to us at this point in the process. So thank you very much for that.
Mr. Chairman, not to interrupt, just for the record, I'd like to reflect that the applicant has arrived to my office.
Oh, okay. Hello, Mr. David. All right, any other board members with comments or questions for the applicant or the peer review consultants? All right, I am not hearing or seeing any. This is a public hearing, so we will put it out to the public for comments or questions. Give a few moments for anyone as an attendee in this to raise their hand or type in a comment or question in the Q&A. All right, I'm not seeing anybody. So, Nora, next steps.
Just give me 1 minute. I'm just updating the proposed waivers. Okay, so I can share with you proposed motions for waivers and then conditions, and much like the last approval, there are quite a few conditions. So I'd be happy to read those again. So first beginning with waivers, there are also a significant number of waivers on this project. The first is a waiver from strict compliance with section 9.5.9 of the zoning bylaw to allow a minimum project area of 0.32 acres where 1 acre is required. That's in the FMUOD section of the bylaw. Second waiver is from strict compliance with section 6.1.19.1 and 6.1.19.2 of the zoning bylaw to allow for landscaped areas of less than 5 feet in depth adjacent to the building and around the perimeter of the parking lot. The third waiver is from strict compliance with section 6.1.20.1 to allow vehicle parking within 5 feet of the lot line. Waiver 4 is a waiver from strict compliance with section 7.3.7.2 of the Westwood zoning bylaw, requiring the submission of a photometric plan. Waiver 5 is from strict compliance with section 7.3.7.3 of the zoning bylaw, requiring the submission of a full traffic study to allow for acceptance of the submitted summary traffic analysis. Waiver 6 is from strict compliance with section 7.3.7.7 of the bylaw, requiring the submission of a presentation model. And then the 2 waivers just discussed tonight, a waiver from strict compliance with section 1.1.4 of the planning board's automobile parking design standards to allow a backup area of 23.5 feet in the north parking lot where 24 feet is required. And a waiver from strict compliance with section 1.3.1 of the planning board's automobile parking design standards to allow a pavement depth of 3 inches where 5 inches is required. So if the board is, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Nora. I move that the planning board grant the waivers as described by Nora in association with the application for flexible multiple use overlay district FMUOD special permit for the proposed mixed use redevelopment at 436 Washington Street as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on January 6, 2020.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the waivers being requested? I did have one question on the last one. I'm just curious why the applicant is electing to use a 3-inch asphalt as opposed to 5. I was just curious about that.
I can probably answer that. That's a fairly standard thickness for bituminous concrete paving in a parking area on private property. The 5-inch comes from the roadway design standards, which 5 is relatively thick course of pavement. So it's just overall cost has been lots of costs added to the project to comply with stormwater and other compliance issues. So we designed it as 3 inches. And I really didn't reference the subdivision control bylaw really to look at the thickness. It's the standard thickness I use for commercial parking lots.
Okay, Nora, is this a deviation from anything we should be concerned about within our town?
It's been done before, and I believe it was even done at University Station.
Okay. All right, thank you for that explanation. So we had a motion, second, open it up again to further discussion. Any of the waivers being requested? Not seeing any board members with questions, so we'll take a roll call vote on the acceptance of the waivers. Kate?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Okay, so then moving into the proposed conditions for the special permit, I can read those. The first proposed condition, except as modified by the conditions and findings hereof, the project shall comply with the project plans in all respects, and the applicant shall pursue completion of the project with reasonable diligence and continuity. Number 2, if the project or any condition imposed in this decision requires any other permit, license, or other approval from any board or commission, or any agency of the town of Westwood, or other regulatory agency of the Commonwealth or the federal government, the applicant shall make an appropriate application for the same and shall obtain all required approvals prior to the start of any work. If any condition of such permit, license, or other approval from any other board, committee, or agency is inconsistent with this decision, the applicant shall make application to the planning board for an amendment of this decision, and the planning board shall consider such application in accordance with the requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and all applicable planning board rules and regulations. Number 3, any proposed alterations, modifications, deletions, or changes to the FMUOD special permit shall be requested in writing to the town planner and building commissioner prior to implementation. Proposed alterations, which are considered de minimis by the building commissioner, may be accepted as a note to the file. Proposed alterations, which are considered minor by the building commissioner, shall require the filing of an application for modification of the FMUOD special permit for review by the planning board at a publicly posted planning board meeting. Proposed alterations, which are determined to be major by the building commissioner or by the planning board, shall be considered by the planning board as a formal amendment to the FMUOD special permit and will require a new public hearing before the planning board. Number 4, the applicant shall submit a fully revised set of plans and updated operations and maintenance plan, O&M plan, addressing all remaining comments in the memorandum from Thomas C. Houston, P.E., AICP of Professional Services Corporation, P.C., to the Westwood Planning Board dated April 7, 2023, and all revisions required by the Planning Board at the April 26th Planning Board meeting. Said fully revised set of plans, set of site plans shall be reviewed by the town planner and approved if consistent with all the above. So if I can remove the language about required changes tonight, I did not hear any. Number 5, the applicant shall submit a stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWIP, for review and approval by the town planner and consulting town engineer prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project. 6, the applicant shall ensure that all walls, windows, and doors are properly insulated to lessen the potential for residents of the proposed dwelling units to be disturbed by noise related to adjacent land uses, including the nearby rail line. 7, all project-related construction activities shall comply with the time frame set forth in the town's general bylaws, Chapter 292 for noise and construction, which allows such work Monday through Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and Sunday between the hours of 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. 8, all trucks carrying earth material to or from 436 Washington Street shall be required to access the property directly over the site access drive via eastbound or westbound Washington Street, and no trucks associated with the project shall be permitted to travel on any non-arterial road in Westwood. Such trucks shall be prohibited from entering or exiting the property between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. and between the hours of 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Any trucks delivering or removing materials shall be covered as to prevent said material from spilling onto the public roadway and any spilled material shall be cleaned from Washington Street and any other roadways traveled in the transport of earth material to and from the site. Number 10, the existing pavement on Washington Street shall be protected from damage from loading and unloading of material and/or equipment related to the proposed construction. Number 11, there should be no substandard or hazardous spill material used with this project. Prior to the import of any earth material, the applicant shall submit certification to the town planner and building commissioner from the company providing said material, stating that the material does not contain any hazardous material. Number 12, all chemicals used during construction shall be located in a designated containment area and shall be located on an impervious surface designed to prevent the discharge of contaminated runoff into the soil or groundwater. Number 13, the applicant shall promptly repair any damage which the applicant or its agents caused to sidewalks, street pavement, signs, or other fixtures or features within the public right-of-way after first obtaining permission from the Town Department of Public Works or Massachusetts Department of Public Works. Such repairs shall be performed to the Town of Westwood standards. Number 14, all landscaping approved herein shall be installed at the earliest possible date, but only during the spring growing season from April 15th through June 15th, or during the fall growing season running from September 15th through November 15th. Any plantings that do not survive shall be replaced in kind in perpetuity at the property owner's expense. 15, all proposed dumpsters, compactors, trash and/or recycling containers, generators, gas tanks, electrical switchgear, electrical transformers, and similar features shall be fully screened from view by gated solid enclosures constructed of wood, stone, brick, or similar materials, and shall not include chain link fencing. Dumpsters, compactors, trash and/or recycling containers shall have an impermeable lid or cover integral to the dumpster, compactor, or container itself, and shall be located on an impervious surface designed to prevent the discharge of contaminated runoff or leachate into the soil or groundwater. Gates shall be closed and fastened at all times other than active loading and/or unloading of trash and/or recycling materials. Number 16, the applicant shall obtain approval by the town planner for any signage not included in this application and shall obtain all required signage permits from the building division prior to installation. Number 17, a copy of this decision and the project plan shall be kept on the project site at all times during construction. Number 18, the applicant shall submit as-built plans at the conclusion of construction, which shall indicate the location of all water quality units, underground storage tanks, pipes, and/or appurtenances which remain on the site prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the property. The as-built plan shall be delivered in a format approved by the Information Systems Director for compatibility with the Town of Westwood GIS database. Number 19, this FMUOD permit shall lapse if a substantial use thereof or construction thereunder has not begun except for good cause within 2 years following the grant thereof. The Planning Board may extend such approval for good cause upon the written request of the applicant. In the case of this approval, the term substantial use thereof or construction thereunder shall mean the commencement and substantial continued progress of the approved activity. Number 20, the applicant shall participate in the submission of a local action unit application for 5 affordable dwelling units eligible for listing on the Subsidized Housing Inventory, SHI, to the Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD, prior to the start of construction, and shall restrict 5 one-bedroom apartments as perpetual affordable dwelling units through the recording of a regulatory agreement at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds in a form approved by the town and DHCD. No certificate of occupancy shall be issued for any residential unit at the property until the regulatory agreement has been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. A receipt showing the book and page of recording has been submitted to the town planner. And number 21, parking shall be managed in full accordance with the parking management plan dated April 10th, 2023. If in the future the building commissioner determines that parking is insufficient for the property and cars associated with the property are parking on residential streets or on nearby properties without the authorization of those property owners, the parking management plan shall be amended to address the concerns, and the amended plan shall be submitted to the town planner for review and approval in consultation with the building commissioner.
Thanks, Nora. I know that wasn't a piece of cake.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Can you repeat that?
Nora, you're taking over all the work there tonight.
Trying
That's
to make it
great.
easier for you guys.
So I
I'll,
move, oh, go ahead, Ellen.
Oh,
sorry.
that just, you've been rocking. I figured I'd give you a break. I move that the planning board grants a flexible multiple use overlay district, FMUOD, special permit for the proposed mixed use redevelopment at 436 Washington Street, as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on January 6th, 2023, subject to the conditions as read by Nora previously.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by board members? Seeing and hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Josh?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Phil?
I'm going to say aye, and I just want to say to the applicant that I'm thrilled with all that you've done.
Thank you. Kate?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Okay,
And
now we
we'll
need
take a motion to close the hearing.
Can I just say so moved?
Second.
Yes.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on closing? Hearing none. Ellen?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you very much for all your attention, all your responsiveness, and really looking forward to this improvement to this part of our town.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all
Thank you.
your input.
Thank you,
and the
guys.
members as well, we're looking forward to getting us.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next item on your agenda is a continuation of your zoning and general bylaw amendment public hearing. This is continued from your March 28th hearing with the Finance and Warrant Commission. At that hearing, the Finance and Warrant Commission, after that hearing, the Finance and Warrant Commission voted to recommend town meeting approval of 4 of the 5 planning board articles and to recommend indefinite postponement of Article 16, which is proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw. I'm sorry, Article 17, proposed amendments to zoning bylaw related to sustainability. So now tonight, the board should discuss how it wants to make a recommendation to town meeting. Typically, the board recommends the town meeting approve all of the planning board articles as presented. And so the board should discuss whether that's what they want to do this time or whether they would like to take some other action.
Ellen, you have your hand up.
I do. So I have some questions actually that will help me figure out next steps. So I did stay through deliberations at the FinCom meeting. So I kind of heard and saw all the concerns and was sad about the recommendation for indefinite postponement. But I still feel very strongly that the sustainability article in particular is important. And one, I'm more than happy, in fact, eager to volunteer to speak at town meeting for either to help try and overturn indefinite postponement or on the merits of the article or both, because it is something that I feel very passionate about. But my question is, I know there at FinCom, there was some concern over the fact that all the pieces of the sustainability article, the changes that we wanted to make were all in one article. There seemed to be some expressed desire to see it broken up into several so that, you know, there might pieces of it might move forward and pieces of it might not. My question is, as far as amending on the floor, because we got that feedback so late in the process that we don't have an opportunity to do that prior to town meeting now, which is unfortunate. But I guess my question for Nora is, as far as amending something on the floor, can we do that kind of amendment, or are we only allowed to add and subtract to what's there? Like, we can't break it out into separate articles at this point.
So if the Finance and Warrant Commission members had made that recommendation on February 28th, or even if they had made that on March 28th during the course of your public hearing and not after you adjourned or continued that public hearing, you could have then split it into numerous articles and then gone to the select board and request additional articles be added to the town meeting warrant. Since that was not done, there was no longer an opportunity. The warrant is set and you have those 5 articles, 16 through 20. You don't have another article. So if you were to try and split it, you would not be able to do that. You can remove items from the article if you feel that the article would pass with some portions of the sustainability components and others would not pass. You can make a floor amendment to the article. I will say that that is often confusing to town meeting members. So it's often better to town meeting voters. It's often better to go with an article exactly as presented, unless you have very specific concerns about language that have been expressed. It could be during town meeting, a number of voters discuss a specific component of the sustainability article that they object to, and voters indicate that except for that component, they're happy with the rest of it. You could make a recommendation, as could any voter, could make a recommendation to strike language in the article and approve the articles amended. You need to do that in writing. So we would need to have an amended article prepared in writing for the board, for the town meeting voters to consider. So I also just want to point out that to override the motion for indefinite postponement, that requires a simple majority of voters present at town meeting, but to approve the article itself, that requires a 2/3 majority. If 2/3 of voters at town meeting want to approve the sustainability article, you'll have no trouble at all overcoming the indefinite postponement. But if you don't have the number of people willing to overcome indefinite postponement, then you didn't have the number of people to approve the article in the first place.
Does the indefinite postponement have to be first prior
It does.
It does.
Yes. So the way this would be handled, the motion immediately comes to the floor on indefinite postponement and a vote is called. What you would need to do if you want to interrupt that process is you would need to ask to speak, and you would need to encourage voters at town meeting to vote no on the article for indefinite postponement. If that article then fails, then you make a motion for approval of Article 17, and then there's another vote taken.
Does an indefinite postponement mean it is postponed until next year, or is it forever postponed?
What it really means is that it won't be taken up at this town meeting, and then it just dissolves. If the board wants to bring it forward at another town meeting, they can do that. The planning board can always bring any article it chooses to bring to any town meeting, and they can do it year after year after year. A petition article cannot be brought back repetitively unless the planning board grants approval for that. But you can bring your own articles as often as you like. Now, is it wise to bring the same article back if it's been voted down? Probably not, but you would have more opportunity for a future town meeting to make revisions to your article. So I guess my recommendation would be for the board to simply recommend town meeting approval of all the articles as written and go that route. But if you have very specific changes you'd like to recommend tonight, you can do that, and I will prepare a floor amendment for you to present.
Nora, I have a question or two, if I may. What was the vote from FinCom on this article?
I
think it was 8-4.
But yes,
It was 9-4.
9-4.
Oh, 9-4. I
9-4.
watched it after the fact,
Okay.
but
And could you or somebody succinctly articulate what it was they were objecting to, or identify the items that they were saying they didn't like being included in this?
So the overall one, which we did not hear until the discussion after the hearing was closed, was concerned that it was an omnibus article, that there were too many items related to sustainability put in one article, and members would have preferred to vote on individual components. For instance, the car charging stations in one article, the plant requirements in another article, the renewable energy requirements in a third article. So that was one complaint or concern that was expressed. Another had to do with the charging stations and the question of how the board arrived at the recent change that was made to put a cap on payments on charging stations. There were also concerns raised that there might be additional costs to commercial applicants that were unknown. Ellen, I don't know, did you hear anything else besides that?
There was some concern over, and this was the one thing that I had received some feedback that I thought was potentially a really good idea. There was some concern over the idea of the greenhouse gas impact study, that the terminology, the way we currently worded it, saying requiring an analysis, it implies that there's some big study required. And the point that the member of FinCom made was like, if we're requiring some of these sustainability improvements, wouldn't that kind of implicitly positively impact the greenhouse gas effect? Which it's an interesting question, and I understand that, yeah, that logically makes sense. I also understand the concern that we'd be asking the applicant to, potentially do a large study. I don't believe that's our intent. So the piece of feedback I received was maybe change the words include analysis of to include a description of, because that's not quite as, it doesn't sound like a big study. It's more like how are the sustainability changes or features that you're implementing going to positively impact a reduction in your footprint, basically. I thought that was a valuable suggestion. If we don't want to make any changes, I think maybe having something in writing as an amendment ready to go is a good idea. I personally am more than happy to speak to the articles as written and advocate for that. I am concerned that if we don't get even a piece of this passed now, we know we have some projects coming that I think it would be a shame to miss out on the opportunity to apply these changes to, because I think it could be a really positive thing for those projects and for the town as a whole if we have this in place before those projects come before us. And I'm afraid if we take another year, we're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. But there was a lot of I feel like the charging stations was the biggest topic of concern. There was some disparity in what individual members of FinCom who voted for indefinite postponement were concerned about. But I do feel like and Nora, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the charging station, the questions around some of the things, various aspects of the charging stations, language that we added, seemed to be kind of the closest thing to consensus that I heard.
I would be concerned if we tried to, because I hear what, because I watched the video a couple of times to just get an assessment, and I get where they say it would be more effective to have it split up. It would have been wonderful if we had known that, before everything was done. And so I'm concerned that if there is a floor amendment, it's going to get lost in the shuffle and there's going to be confusion. Just if there's an evidence of confusion by the FinCom, then it is going to be far harder to quickly and kind of succinctly explain it essentially to a large group that's not really have a good handle on the content. So I think, it would be a backdrop to try that, but I wouldn't think that would be the lead.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like just knowing the process of having to submit an amendment, having it ready and written by Nora and or Pat, someone who understands the requirements, that because I've seen it before where someone submitted an amendment, but it's not worded correctly and the moderator can't accept it because it's out of scope. So I think having something ready to go, if it looks like we need to use it, that we know will address the requirements for it to be in scope is a good idea. But I agree with you. I feel like I'm ready to stand behind the articles as written and make our case as to how we got to where we did and why, and at least start that way and then pivot from there. But so I agree with Nora that we just recommend to town meeting approve.
I would go with that.
You could recommend town meeting approval as a board, and if any one of you as individuals on the evening of town meeting feel that an amendment is necessary or would be successful, you as individuals can always offer a proposed amendment. And I'd be happy to work with you on language for a proposed amendment.
Yeah,
So
I would be in favor of keeping our articles intact moving forward. I don't like the look of changing this on the fly with almost hearsay recommendation from FinCom. 3 people is all we needed different to vote differently, and then we don't have to jump this hurdle of indefinite postponement. But as Nora said, if we can't get indefinite postponement, then we're not going to get the 2/3 anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
I just don't like the look of making changes this late in the game. I understand where Ellen's coming from about being ready, and I think there's no problem being ready. But I like the article, and I don't have a problem with it. And a decent number of FinCom didn't have a problem with it either. It's just some didn't, and they might have different FinCom members wanted different things pulled out. I didn't get that from so I don't really know. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get that kind of feedback. That's what we were looking for from FinCom, and we didn't get it. But that's the hand we were dealt. So let's just play this out, using our strength. And I think that is the article that we've written.
I agree. I'd be willing to speak too. It was a little frustrating that the comments that were coming again after the fact with deliberations, and I was just a little puzzled as to the timing, and because it could have been addressed if it had been addressed, and that was the frustrating part.
yeah, I totally agree. I think we should try to push it as written now. Unfortunately, I was only able to watch the recording once. I was really disappointed with the discussion afterwards. It just didn't make sense to me. There was no meat to it. Like you said, Chris, like it was almost hearsay. It was just like, we don't like the feel of it, and that's not actionable. But that does go a long way to explain why these concerns weren't brought up earlier, so that we could actually go through the process of making a better informed or better written article. If that's what FinCom wanted. It was really disappointing to see that, but I think that more than the majority of town want to see some movement in this direction, and I don't see anything in the article that is grandiose or objectionable to any extent. So if we can't pass indefinite postponement, then sort of it is what it is, I guess, at this point.
Exactly. Completely agree with Josh.
All right. So
Yeah,
Nora, do you need? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I feel like we as a board and with Nora and Pat Ahern, we spent a lot of time on all of our articles, but the sustainability article in particular, like I do feel like it's well vetted. I understand there are some concerns, but I agree with what we've all said, that I think we should take it to the residents as written and see what happens. I do think it would be good maybe to have a small, just a couple of tweaks on hand just in case. I know that's not unprecedented. If it looks like, based on the conversation, that a couple of small tweaks might make the difference as far as alleviating concerns of the residents. But I think we're all on the same page. But yeah, I do feel like, and to your point, Chris, we only needed 3 people to vote the other way on FinCom. 2 of them seemed to be kind of on the fence, and they were going to vote no, they were going to vote, recommend to approve, and then change their minds. So I feel like even amongst some of the FinCom members, there was some indecision about what they really wanted to do with it. And that's just based on what I observed. So to your point, I think it's worthwhile to just take the article as it is to town meeting.
And when do those opinions come out, the minority and the majority opinions?
They would be in the book. They'll be mailed to your home. I believe it's already been printed. So you should be receiving it shortly.
All right, awesome.
So this is a public hearing. So if you'd like to invite comments.
Yeah, we'll put it out to anyone in the attendees portion of this meeting who'd like to ask a question or make a comment on our articles. Now would be the time. You can either raise your hand or type in a comment or question in the Q&A portion or section. Not seeing anybody.
No.
raising their hand or typing. So
Right, so I have a draft motion for you. It's a short one, so if anyone would like to make the motion, you
give
can
Nora
read
a
this one.
break.
I move that the planning board recommend town meeting approval of 5 planning board sponsored warrant articles as follows. Article 16, proposed amendments to zoning bylaw related to earth material movement, EMM. Article 17, proposed amendments to zoning bylaw related to sustainability. Article 18, proposed amendments to zoning bylaw related to dumpsters. Article 19, proposed amendments to general bylaws related to dumpsters. Article 20, proposed housekeeping amendments to zoning bylaw.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Oh, Ellen?
Sorry, I just noticed, it looks like there's something popped up in the Q&A.
Oh, I can't see that. Yes, there is.
Fran Fusco.
Fran Fusco says 100% agree with the sustainability article.
Fran, could I just ask you to type in your address for the record?
Oh, looks like Elijah is typing in.
He's putting it in.
Okay.
Okay. Question's been removed now. So, so we had a motion. In a second. I don't see anybody else typing anything from the public.
Well,
there's
Fran Fusco typed in 20 Pine Lane. Thank you.
All right, we had a motion and a second, and we were taking further discussion or comments. And I did not see any, so I was going to do a roll call vote. So we'll start with Ellen.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
I'm an aye.
And now we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on closing this public hearing? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Josh.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Ellen.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Great, thank you very much. All right, next, your 6th item on the agenda is an A&R plan for 258 Grove Street. And we have, I believe David Kromsick is the representative for the applicant in this case. So Dave, if you accept promotion, you can come over if you have any comments to make. We don't usually have a presentation for an A&R plan, but if there are questions, the board can bring those up. So you're all familiar with this plan. I can bring it up on the screen, just a moment.
Am I in yet?
You're in.
Oh,
Yes, you are.
video. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Good evening. How is everybody?
Doing well, thanks.
So this is I represent Joanna Cook Chelman. She is the owner of 258 Grove Street in Westwood. She's been a long-time resident of Westwood, I think going back about 20-something years. She has an existing lot of at 258 Grove Street, obviously, of about 8.37 acres. And she is proposing to divide that property into 2 parcels, one consisting of 5.16 acres and the other consisting of 3.22 acres. That's set forth in the plan of Norwood Engineering that we submitted in conjunction with the application. This is in at the SRE zone, which is 80,000 square feet per lot and 175 feet of frontage. Ms. Chelman has 470 1.60 frontage right now. So essentially she has 4 times the amount of lot size and 2.5 times the amount of frontage. So the again, in SRE zone, the minimum acreage is 2 acres, roughly 80,000 square feet, and 175 feet of frontage. So under the new plan shown on the Nord engineering plan, the 2 lots would have 281.40 frontage and 190.20 frontage. So for A&R purposes and A&R endorsement, she meets the frontage requirements under the new plan. And also she has access to a public way, obviously, on Grove Street for both parcels, which is the second requirement for A&R endorsement. So that's essentially what we're petitioning for.
All right, thank you. Nora, any concerns with this plan?
No, so the plan meets the requirements. It has minimum required frontage, greater than minimum required frontage on a public street. It has the greater than minimum lot area, and it has actual adequate access from the frontage to the buildable portion of the lot.
Okay. Any questions, concerns, or comments by board members? Ellen?
This is just for my education. Like, I noticed that there's some wetlands on the property. And I know, like, sometimes we see things designated as not buildable lots, which is obviously not the case here. I'm just curious for my own education. Do the wetlands and the buffers in that second lot, do they have any bearing on, as far as us looking at this, meeting the requirements? Does that have anything to do with it or no?
They do not. However, in order for someone to construct a home there, they would have to go to the Conservation Commission and receive approval. You can see that the majority of the proposed new lot is within 100 feet of the wetlands. So if you look at the dotted line that's running horizontally across the page, you have the line with the circles in it, that's the edges of the wetland flags. The dark line under that is the 35-foot buffer from the wetlands, and then the lighter line towards the bottom of the plan is the 100-foot buffer. So there is almost no area. There is no area within the buildable footprint on the lot that is not in the 100-foot buffer. So any development of this lot requires Conservation Commission approval, but that's for development of the lot. The planning board's creation of the lot does not require approval by the Conservation Commission. If this lot is created, if someone purchases it and decides to build on it, then they have to go to the Conservation Commission for approval of their plans.
So as long as they show that they have a buildable area that meets the bylaw requirements purely based on space, all the other stuff within that buildable area has no bearing on our decision.
So they don't even have to show you that they have a buildable area. They only have to show you that they have frontage and adequate access across that frontage to the lot. And then a determination of whether it's buildable comes from the building commissioner. And in this case, also from the Conservation Commission after the lot is formed. But to form the lot, they just have to show they have area, frontage on a public way, and adequate access across that frontage, all of which they have.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And they've taken steps to get ahead of the anticipated Concom work, which if endorsement issues from your board, that would be the next step. Hired an environmental firm to help them with that process. So they'll get an order of conditions from the Concom, I assume. Any kind of.
Any other board members with questions or comments? Okay. So Nora, we take a motion to endorse.
Yes.
Okay, just simple motion.
That the planning board find the approval not required application for 258 Grove Street dated March 28th, 2023 to be complete, and that the board vote to endorse the submitted plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control laws.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. This is to endorse this A&R plan. Ellen?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, I just have a quick question for you. So just to understand logistically, the signatures would go on the plan. I'd obtain it from you and then I'd record it.
Yes,
And then
so,
and then I have to send you some kind of certification of recording. Is that the process?
right, so you dropped off the Mylar and I think a copy or two that you would like signed. I will leave the Mylars at the police station. The planning board members will stop by the police station when they can and they'll sign this and other A&R plans. They'll be presented for them. When they're fully signed, I will send you a letter through the application portal, but I'll also give you a call and let you know that the plan's ready to pick up. Then you pick it up, you take the Mylar to the Registry of Deeds and you get a receipt for your book and page of recording, and then you upload that receipt to the application portal.
Okay, that was the part I was not clear about. Thank you. That
You're
makes
welcome.
sense.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, your next application is for an A&R plan for 490 Gay Street. And for this one, the applicant is Lou Petrosi. We'll invite him to be a panelist. And I will display that plan next.
Do we now designate at the end of our meetings the A&R portion of our program?
Well, you often don't have a representative who wants to speak to an A&R plan. It's often just before the board considers whether it meets your requirements or not. So here
It's
is
just interesting to see so many lined up.
There are more than usual, that's for sure. So here is the plan for 490 Gay Street. And you may recall seeing a previous A&R plan for 490 Gay Street. The board voted to endorse one in January. And after the board endorsed that plan, they received notice of an appeal on the endorsement. So that has been stayed. The applicant has the signed earlier version of the plan, and he has revised his A&R plan in a manner which he believes addresses the issues that were brought up in the appeal. So the previous A&R plan, actually, why don't I show you that? That might help you see the differences. This is the, oh, no, that's the same plan. Sorry. Stop sharing and try again. So this is the plan that you endorsed previously. And you can see that the proposed lot 1 has this shape to it. And the access to proposed lot 2, there's frontage here, frontage along Gay Street to the west of the existing structure. There's also frontage to the east of the existing structure, and the frontage to the east is the frontage that would provide access to the buildable portion of the lot. This is the buildable portion of the lot here. The rest of it is all wet. Down here is wet, back here is wet. So after the board endorsed this A&R, there was an appeal filed, and one of the concerns brought up when the appeal was that the actual access is across this supplemental frontage and not across the primary frontage over here. So the applicant revised his plan. Back. So the current plan changes the shape of the lot with the existing building on it, which becomes sort of a flag lot. It has this long appendage and more land in the back. And then this becomes lot 2, the new lot that would be the intended as a buildable lot. And that now has more frontage on Gay Street and a direct access across that frontage to the buildable portion of the lot. Both the prior plan and this plan have this parcel A that's also being created and noted not to be considered a buildable lot. So it creates 2 buildable lots and 1 non-buildable lot.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Any questions, comments from board members for Nora? Or the applicant, I guess, Mr. Petrosi, who is on with us. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we'll take a motion to endorse.
I move that the planning board find the approval not required application for 490 Gay Street dated March 30th, 2023 and revised through April 6th, 2023 to be complete, and that the board vote to endorse the submitted plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control laws.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Josh.
Aye.
Ellen.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Aye,
you.
thank you.
All right, and now you have another A&R plan. This one is for 290 Summer Street. I don't believe there's anyone here to represent it. If you are, please just raise your hand and we'll bring you in. I'm going to show you the plan for 290 Summer Street. So here's the plan. Right now, there are 3 parcels here. One is this fairly rectangular parcel on the left. Then there is another parcel in the center that's sort of a trapezoid shape. And then one that's almost square over here. So there are currently 3 lots. The applicant is looking to divide those into 2 lots. The first lot would be right here, lot 157, and the second lot over here, lot 156. So both take 3 lots and create 2 lots out of that. So each lot has more area. And these would both be proposed as buildable lots. They both contain wetlands, which are shown here. They both have adequate frontage on a public way and actual access off of that frontage.
All right, questions or comments for Nora? Okay. Do you have motion language,
I
Nora?
do. Yes, just one second.
So I think I have it. I move that the planning board find the approval not required application for 290 Summer Street dated October 12th, 2022 and revised through April 10th, 2023 to be complete, and that the board vote to endorse the submitted plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control laws.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Kate.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Ellen.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, and just
There is something typed in. It's sorry, it's Fran Fusco asking about allowing more time in the future to type in messages. She just was unable to type fast enough this evening. So not really a question, except just a request.
all right. So now your next application is for 396, 394 and 396 Providence Highway. So this one, I don't see an applicant, but again, if there's an applicant here, please let me know and we'll bring you in. This plan is sure familiar to the board. This is the Shell station on Providence Highway. The board granted EIDR approval for a redevelopment of the Shell station to add a Seasons Market and drive-through coffee shop. as well as enlarged and relocated fuel dispensers. One of the requirements of that decision was that the two lots that comprise the development be joined into a single lot. So right now you have one lot that's owned by William McDonough, and that is map 24 lot 82. And then you have this lot here, which is owned by Colbia Enterprises. That's map 24 lot 3. That was previously Mass DOT right-of-way land that was purchased by Colbia. So the proposal here is to combine these two parcels into a single parcel. And the intent is for the A&R plan to be reported at the registry, assuming the board endorses it, simultaneously with a deed transferring this parcel from William McDonough to Colbia Enterprises.
Nora, we do have a hand raised, Nicholas Arnold and Adler Pollock.
Oh, yes, we'll bring those over. Just a second. Stop my sharing.
And John Russell has his hand raised also.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members, and Nora, likewise, thank you for that explanation. My colleague, John Russell, is also here. I see he's joining now. Nora, that was a great explanation of our request for the A&R approval. We're here just to say hello and answer any questions that the board may have. So if there are none, so that's great. And if they are, we're happy to answer any and all questions.
All right, thank you. Comments and questions from board members of the applicant or Nora?
No, I believe that the plan is fully compliant with your regulations. It has adequate frontage and actual access across that frontage.
Could I apologize. Hi, Nora, how are you? Thanks so much for your help. And sorry to interject. The only clarification is to make that our client Colbia is going to transfer the former DOT parcel to Mr. McDonough.
Okay.
At his realty trust. So that's the only comment there. So thanks so much and appreciate everyone's time.
All right, thank you. Okay, if no one has any comments or questions, we'll take a motion to endorse. Nora has the language up there.
So I move that the planning board find the approval not required application for 394, 396 Providence Highway dated April 7th, 2023 to be complete, and that the board vote to endorse the submitted plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control laws.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Josh.
Aye.
Ellen.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you all.
Best of luck.
All right, then the next item on your agenda is consideration of draft minutes. I did not complete the draft minutes until about 6:30 tonight. So they are in your email. If you could review them for your next meeting on May 16th, then you could vote to approve them at that meeting. The following item is number 11, updates from agency and committee representatives. I don't know if anyone had any committee or agency meetings over the last month. Would you like to report on them?
I had to miss Ped Bike, unfortunately, but I'll get there this month.
All right, then the next item is general miscellaneous updates and administrative items. So under this item, I'd like to ask the board to consider some scheduling issues. The first request is to consider having a joint meeting with the Norwood Planning Board to consider an application we recently received for the Mercedes-Benz dealership at 427 Providence Highway. That property crosses over the town line, and Mercedes-Benz is looking to put a small addition on its building. And that addition, right now the building is fully in Westwood. The parking lot is partially in Westwood and partially in Norwood. Their proposed addition would actually cross the line. So part of the building would in the future be in Norwood. So the Norwood Planning Board will be reviewing this as a site plan review application. They do not do that in the form of a hearing. They just do it as a meeting, a public meeting. And they're inviting the Westwood Planning Board to attend their meeting and call its hearing at that meeting. The Norwood Planning Board does not meet in a fully remote fashion. They meet in person, but they do offer a hybrid meeting if that's something that the board would prefer. So you're invited, if you're interested, to go to Norwood on May 23rd to have a hearing there.
I would like to play the tape back and see Kate's response there. Yes, Kate.
So I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, do we know how many are on their planning board?
No, I don't. I could look that up, but I don't know offhand.
Is it possible for us to have the town give us matching shirts of any sort or hats? Because I don't want to be confused with anybody on the Norwood Planning Board. I am from Norwood, and I need people to know that I have moved out of the town that I grew up in. But no, I'm available. I can go there. We can do it remote. I am excited to participate in that.
I think we should wear green baseball hats.
You know what I
Baseball
mean?
caps. Yeah.
Something.
We'll form a company softball team afterwards.
I still have my varsity jacket from high school, so
Right?
I'll wear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can wear my son's varsity
Perfect.
jacket from high school. What date was that, Nora? That they
That's
were
May
proposing?
23rd.
What time would it be,
So-
Laura?
I believe it would be 7 p.m., but I can confirm that.
Okay.
I
So,
thought it said
Nora,
22nd.
Oh, I'm sorry, do I have the wrong date? Hold on one second. I'm going to open up my email from Sarah Bouchard, who's now the planning director in Norwood. She was our former housing planner here.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you
Be
want to
nice to
retract
see
your
her.
statement, Kate?
I do actually, yeah. I do.
Let me just verify, sorry.
The
I'm sorry,
23rd
it
is a
May-
Tuesday.
May 22nd, yes, it is May 22nd, not May 23rd.
Okay.
May 22nd, she writes to me, May 22nd is a good day for us. And she says, the Norwood Planning Board would prefer to convene fully in person, but can offer a hybrid option if needed. All of their meetings are promoted on Google Meet, so that's the format that they use.
And are they in their town hall?
I
Norwood
believe
Center?
they meet at the Norwood Senior Center.
Oh, okay. I was just looking, I believe we have our own scheduled through the end of May on the 16th and the 30th.
You
So
do.
adding the 22nd would give us 3 weeks in a row of meeting. Do we have anything scheduled for, say, the 30th?
You don't yet have anything scheduled for the 30th, but I expect the application for 22 Everett Street to come in the next day or two. And that was the date we were looking for that.
Oh. Okay. I was
But if the
just
board is
looking
more
at,
comfortable, so we also, one of the items I'd like to talk to you about is setting future meetings for June and beyond. So if you felt that you didn't want to meet 3 weeks in a row and you wanted to eliminate the May 30th meeting, you could take that into consideration in how you schedule your meetings in June.
I was looking at that thinking maybe we push the 30th to June 6th and then we meet on the 20th. And then July and August is usually one meeting a month, typically.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know how the rest of the board thinks about availability for the 6th and the 20th. If we kept the 30th, then we would meet the 13th and 27th. So I guess it hinges on if we want to move to the 30th to be the 6th or not.
It would be easier for me to move the 30th to the 6th, so I would be open to that.
That's fine for me too.
I'm free, whichever route we want to take.
Whatever's best for the group is fine for me.
Okay, then let's not burden ourselves with 3 weeks in a row, and we'll do the 16th of our own meeting, the 22nd with Norwood, and then Tuesday to June 6th back to our own schedule. And then I guess it would follow that the 20th would be the second meeting in June.
Okay, so we could set meeting dates for May 16th, May 22nd, June 6th, and June 20th. Are you comfortable going beyond that and setting dates for the remainder of the year?
If it is efficient, I'll just say that the list I saw from you, Nora, works for me.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't see that list.
Oh,
sorry.
Let me, I just revised it. Change the dates that we just mentioned, but I can share my screen. I think I can share my screen. In a little trouble right now. Let's see. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
So at the top, these are the meetings that we already have. Here's today's meeting on the 11th, and then we have the next time we'll be together is town meeting on May 1st. And then I have our meeting on May 16th. I have not yet added in here a meeting for you to meet with Norwood on May 22nd. I probably won't put that on your advertised list of meetings. I will submit an agenda to the town clerk for that meeting, but it'll be a one-item meeting. So you will only be considering the Mercedes application. So I don't want to put it on this scheduled list of meetings and have someone file an application for that date. And then I have here a meeting on June 6th, June 20th. So the additional dates that I'm recommending are here, and they're all subject to whatever your availability is. A meeting in July. I show 2 meetings in August here, but I'd be happy to cut it down to 1. And then 2 meetings in September, 2 in October, 1 in November, 2 in December. But you let me know what you think works. There are some times of the year, I know we try to have fewer meetings. September and October can be our very busiest time. And so I want to make sure you have enough meetings so that none of them go to midnight.
That's priority 1, Nora.
Yes.
No more witching hour. Yeah, I think those all.
I'd love to drop August 1st if we're going to drop an August meeting. But that's a long stretch between July 11th and August 22nd.
Well, you could also.
It's not unusual.
It isn't, but if you prefer a different date in August, somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, we're just trying to factor in people's vacation schedules.
Vacation schedule, exactly. So.
Does anyone have a week that doesn't work? A Tuesday in August or July that does not work? Is everyone available July? The 22nd, you're not available, Josh?
Correct.
Okay.
I might not be on August 1st. But that's still up in the air.
Yeah.
But,
so what about August 8th or 15th? Do either of those dates work better?
those would be better for me.
8th works for me.
Okay, so it gives us from July 11th to August 8th. Seems reasonable. And then we go to just after Labor Day to September 12th.
Mm-hmm.
When is Columbus Day this year? The 9th? Yeah. So the day after Columbus Day, I don't know if people have plans typically or whatever. College visits if you have high school juniors, seniors.
It's actually Indigenous Peoples Day, so I was off a little bit.
Sorry.
Looking at that, but also my kids will be out of high school by then, so I don't care what happens. I'm good.
The iPhone still refers to it as the other one. So I just
I'm still trying to get my kids out of college.
Okay. I don't have a problem, at least right now, with any of these dates suggested. So it sounds like August was the only potential conflict. Does everyone want to accept these dates that Nora submitted?
Do we need to vote or we just accept?
No, you don't. No, just
No.
let me know if you have concerns, and if you don't, those are the dates I will schedule and we'll set up. And as we go through the year, if something comes up, we can always make changes. But
Yeah, we have made
applicants find it
changes,
helpful to rely on a schedule, so it's helpful to have it posted.
For sure.
Okay.
Okay, well, that is it.
Wow.
Wow.
Don't have any other business for you tonight.
Great. So do we
Can
need a
you-
motion? Oh, sorry.
Nora, sorry, can you just email that schedule to us?
I will,
That
yes.
revised? Thank you.
Yep.
I didn't get to write them all down, so it would be helpful to. I didn't take a screenshot either of what you showed.
Okay.
All right, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So Elijah, I hope you've enjoyed this meeting. We've loved having you here, and I'm gonna move that we close the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Next time we meet will be my further discussion. Will be at town meeting. Nora, is that in the auditorium or is it going to be outside?
Do you know Jessica? Auditorium, yes.
It's definitely inside. Auditorium. Okay.
Sorry.
So we'll have a table down front per usual. Okay.
Yes.
So we had a motion to adjourn in a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Kate.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Phil.
Hi.
Ellen.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Thank you very
all.
much, everyone, for your work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
We'll see you
everybody.
at town meeting.
Thank you,
Good
See you
night.
Elijah.
there.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Elijah.
Good night.
Thank you, Nora.
Yeah, thanks a lot.